Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'm reviewing the Inov-8 F-Lite Fly G 295. So 3 pros that I have with this model is number 1, this is an awesome shoe for sprints, short and mid-range runs, so anywhere from like 0 to 6 miles within a single bout of running, and some circuit and full body training sessions. So I like this model most as a more like athletic style shoe. So let's say you're going to the track to do some lighter workouts, whether it's bodyweight exercises, kettlebell or dumbbell accessories, and then also adding in some running work. This is a really good shoe that tackles that ask really well. You get a nice fit and feel with this model, and after a few runs, it really starts to break in. And you really start to get a nice feel in the shoe. Like it took about, I would say like 10-ish miles till the shoe started feeling really great, but now I've like really grown to love them because they feel very athletic in nature, and I've been really digging them for my more athletic style sessions. And this model has a nice level of stability blended with some responsiveness to where you can really hunker down on sprints in them or even use them for some lighter training. So they do work as kind of like that really good hybrid style shoe. My second pro with this shoe is the upper construction. So I really like the knit upper, and honestly, like even after wearing them for 2.5 weeks and running pretty frequently in them, the upper looks relatively brand new. It breathes pretty well and it's pretty comfortable. It form fits the foot, but also gives you a little bit of room too to kind of like splay the toes and to have a little bit of breathability even on your hotter training sessions. My third pro with this model is that I like the Fly Plus midsole construction in this shoe. So we have an EVA foam layer here with this graphene style construction on the bottom of the shoe, and the blend of both of these along with the boomerang insole in the shoe, they give you a nice level of energy return. So no matter what surface you're running on, I think you're gonna like the energy return you get from the shoe. It feels very bouncy in nature, for example, and during my sprints I notice this most, especially when really digging into the forefoot of this shoe. You get a lot out of this shoe with what you put into them. So those are my 3 pros with this model. I could see this being a really good model to supplement with your normal cross training shoes if you're looking for that shoe that can work for some full body sessions or some short to mid-range runs. But now let's talk about a couple of cons I have with this model. So 2 potential cons I could see folks having with this model is number 1, the grip of the sole in certain training contexts. Now more specifically, when doing lateral explosive work on turf and grass, so basically surfaces that are a little bit loose in nature. On most surfaces, the shoe grips really well, and even on turf and grass, I think if you're working in the sagittal plane, so front and back, you should be fine with this model's grip. But when digging into the forefoot and moving laterally and trying to be a bit more explosive with nature, I did have a little bit of slip with this shoe, and I just think it's because the outsole lacks like this aggressive lug patterning that you want in a shoe that's going to provide a little bit more grip on those training surfaces. The second potential con I could see folks having is the long-term durability of the outsole of this shoe. So we have a graphene grip construction, and it's very lightweight in nature, which I personally love for the fit and feel. The only drawback is that I am already starting to notice a little bit of scuffing on this shoe on the forefoot. I've been using this shoe for my recovery runs and for some sprint work on hills, and I think really digging into the forefoot on those sprints has caused a little bit of scuffing on the shoe. So what I would say is that if you plan to use this shoe and put in a ton of mileage on concrete every single week, definitely keep an eye on this model. I think this model is going to be best served for some road running blended with some track running and some treadmill running. I think that's going to give you the best longevity with this model. So that being said, if you plan to use this shoe for a ton of concrete running and putting in a ton of mileage every single week, I would say definitely keep an eye on the outsole construction of this shoe. So when chatting on the performance of the Inov-8 F-Lite Fly G 295, I'm gonna break this section to a few different parts. We'll talk about cross training, running, and then daily wear and walking. So when it comes to cross training in this shoe, I like it a lot for more hybrid training sessions where you're gonna be adding in some body weight movement, some lighter kettlebell or dumbbell work, or even doing like some more athletic focus work. So maybe some sled work or some ball slams, etc. I think for those styles of training, the shoe should work pretty well. They provide you with enough stability to do some light lifting in, but then also a nice level of versatility to do like things like plyometrics or some jump rope in. So if you do want a shoe that is a bit more biased towards running or more athletic style training, that can work for some lighter lifting. This is a good model to look into. So basically I define them as being really great shoes for like track workouts where you're blending a little bit of everything in. When it comes to running, I have been really digging this shoe, and more specifically for my sprint work, short runs, and mid-range runs. And so why I like this model best for short and mid-range runs is because you get a nice level of energy return, but with the midsole construction, it walks that fine line between being stable enough, but also versatile and responsive enough to not beat your feet up for like 5 miles and down. So I think if you're gonna be using this model for like faster 5K work, or even like a nice slow 5-mile recovery run like I've been using them for, I think you'll really enjoy them. And so when it comes to long runs, I think this shoe will work. However, what I would say is that if you like a bit more cushion with your shoes for longer runs, then this model may not fit the bill. It does have a slightly more stable feel to it. And so while I do think this model is comfortable as a whole, I do think if you like having maximal cushion for your running, especially for longer runs, you may find that this model falls a little bit short. So when it comes to walking in daily wear, I also like this shoe. I like that the appearance is pretty subtle in nature. We only have branding here on the lateral heel and the tongue, and as a whole, like the upper looks pretty good. Like this is a running shoe, but I feel like it could also work as a daily wear shoe because it doesn't shout running shoe, so to speak. And when it comes to walking, the shoe is comfortable and it provides enough support to where I think you can stand in them all day and they're not gonna feel like they're beating your feet up or that you're getting a ton of foot fatigue. So I do like this model for daily wear and walking as well. So if you want to use them for some training sessions, but then also as a daily driver, the shoe will work. What I would suggest though is just be conscious of this outsole construction if you're gonna be using them as a daily wear shoe, especially in wet surfaces, just to avoid any breakdown here of the sole. All right, so now let's answer the question, who is this model best for? So I think if you're an athlete or a lifter who already has a really good cross-training shoe for CrossFit or lifting, or your more serious training sessions in the gym, this can be a really good model to look into if you've been looking for a shoe for tackling some short and mid-range runs that you can also wear to sprint in and even do some full body sessions in. This model does a really good job at ticking all these like hybrid level boxes that aren't so specific in nature, and it has a nice athletic fit to it. So I do think most folks will enjoy the way they feel for their more casual running sessions or their more athletic focused sessions. So when it comes to sizing and fit in the Inov-8 F-Lite Fly G 295, I think most lifters and runners should be safe going true to size in this model. The length fits true, and then based on Inov-8's fit scale, this model has a size 5 fit, which means it's like the wider of the Inov-8 shoes. So I do think the width in this shoe should do a pretty good job at accommodating a bunch of different foot widths. So I think if you have a neutral foot width, a narrow, or even a slightly wide foot width, this model should fit pretty well true to size. When it comes to price in this model, you can expect to pay $170 USD. Now I'm a little bit hit or miss on this price. I think if you are looking into this shoe just for running and you want to save a little bit of money and you're like, I don't know if that price is worth it, then you could probably shop around and find a running shoe for a better price point that will work just well for running. Now, if you want a shoe for hybrid training and you plan to use this for sprints and basically all the context I described already in this video, then I do think the shoe can be worth it, especially if you're rotating them in for road runs, treadmill runs, and track running. The investment should go the distance and they should have a good amount of longevity to them. So when discussing the weight, heel to toe drop, and insole in this model, for my size 10 shoe here, we have a weight of 11.5 ounces. The heel to toe drop in this shoe is 8 millimeters, and we do have a removable insole, and that is this boomerang insole that Inov-8 is using in this shoe. All right, so now let's quickly go over the construction of the Inov-8 F-Lite Fly G 295. Up here on the toe box, we have an extended outsole layer that wraps up. There is no external stitching around the toe box, which I personally like for durability purposes. We have a knit upper construction that extends the entirety of this shoe. So as you can see, it's pretty similar throughout. We have a nice level of breathability here on the forefoot, which I also enjoy. Then looking at that lateral heel, we do have that Inov-8 branding right here. It's a little bit reflective in nature. And then looking at the midfoot, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 eyelets that run up with a 10th back here for lace lock. And what I'll say is when I first put these on, it was kind of a pain to unlace them and really loosen them up, but I've kind of figured out a system since then. And I do like the midfoot security that this lacing system provides with this model. I think that's what also feeds into the shoe, feeling a little bit more athletic because it really locks you down. And then looking at the tongue, we have an additional loop here with some Inov-8 branding. The tongue itself is gusseted, so it doesn't really slide side to side, which I also really like. And then looking at the midsole, we have this Fly Plus foam midsole. So basically we have this EVA foam layer here with this like graphene construction sole. And I like this a lot because it does give you a nice level of pop and a nice level of energy return. It walks this really good line between being stable but also really responsive and versatile. Looking at the sole construction, we have that graphene grip material throughout. We have this dynamic fascia band that runs throughout the entirety of the outsole, similar to most Inov-8 shoes. And then we also have the Metaflex up here in the forefoot, giving it a little bit more maneuverability. Looking at the insole, once again, we have this boomerang insole. This is an insole that Inov-8 uses in some of their shoes. It's basically designed to give you a little bit more energy return with like this TPU bead style construction. So it does have a nice level of pop and give to it, and it does help add to the comfort of this shoe, especially with different training contexts. So that pretty much wraps up the gist of this model's construction. Definitely check out the product page if you want more specifics on this model. model and some of the metrics used in the shoe. But if you have any additional questions, hit me in the comments below. All right, guys, that wraps up my review of the Inov-8 F-Lite Fly G 295. If you have any additional questions on this shoe, hit me in the comments below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, guys, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.